Well, hey, I want to welcome you to the Disciple Making Church podcast. My name's Ken Adams, and I'm the founder and director of Impact Ministries. And also, I get the privilege of being a pastor of Crossroads Church in Newnan, Georgia. And we like to come to you every month and just share with you really things that we're learning in our own church about what does it mean to be a disciple-making church. And we just want to share those things with you so that maybe it'll help you and encourage you in the disciple-making process at your church. So really it's just kind of the overflow of that. And so we're glad you're joining us. Hope that you will share this with other people and even just like it if you don't mind. And let us know if there's any way that we can serve you or help you. And so we'd love to do that. I'm super excited about this connecting time today, about us sharing in this episode. And I have my friend John Shamlin with me. And John and I have been knowing each other for, back to 2016, you said. So we've been connected for a while. And this is what I want you to know about John, is that John is as committed a disciple maker as really anybody I know, because he has been faithfully investing his life in different groups of disciples for a number of years now. And I just thought, what better way for you to maybe glean and learn some things about the disciple-making process by hearing from somebody who's not a vocational minister, not on staff at a church anywhere, not being paid to do this stuff, but somebody who is just in the trenches week after week, pouring his life into people. And so that's what we want to talk about today. John Shamlin. John, tell everybody kind of what you do and where you are these days and what you do for a living. And then even from there, we'll talk about how you got started into the disciple-making process.
Sure. Well, I'd love to start by saying that I grew up for a dad who was a football coach and a school teacher and took care of golf courses in the summer, and that led to me being a golf course superintendent for 17 years, which led to me then selling to golf courses, chemical and fertilizers. So what I get paid to do is sell chemical and fertilizers to golf course. It's Masters Week, so they use plenty at the Augusta National property. But what I get to do is be around people all the time. I'm constantly doing that. So that's what I get paid to do vocationally.
Okay. All right. So in many ways, when we look in the scriptures about the guys that Jesus used to make disciples, they were just, they called them sort of common, ordinary men, and so you kind of fit in that category,
That's
right?
Me.
You're just
I've been called worse. I've been called worse for sure.
So, I think that's beautiful, man. And so tell us a little bit about how did this whole, I'm gonna just call it this disciple-making fire get started in you, man?
Well, it certainly came out of Israel. We were both there. You were taking a trip. I had a buddy, that knew you were going. My father-in-law, who was a preacher for 65 years, produced this beautiful girl, and I married her, and the rest has been uphill since then. It's been good. But we ended up in Israel together, and one of the nights I was sitting close enough to you to talk to you over dinner, and we found out we had a common friend, my best friend in life from grade school all the way through college, ended up passing away and left a wife. She remarried. They moved down to Newnan, and they went to your church, and we discovered that while in Israel, and I thought only God could orchestrate this to that degree. But it was there that my wife and I were between churches, and what I mean is that my kids had grown up in the church and had gone off to college, and for the first time ever, I wanted to explore more community, more outreach, and got over there and was looking for my way, trying to find out where God wanted to use me. And you introduced me to making disciples who make disciples. And how I heard it, Ken, was you said, you don't have to be commissioned by the church to go out and make disciples. You can do that on your own. And I had volunteered with teenagers. My teenage years were not the best of my years and early college days, so I loved to stand in that gap for teenagers in particular. But as I was aging out of them thinking how cool I was, I didn't know what tennis shoes are hot and what the music is. I was looking for a way to continue to let my light shine, and you said, well, then you need to get a small group of men together and make disciples who then will multiply. That is when you introduced me to the apple concept and told me that you cannot measure the seeds in an apple, the apples that'll come from the seed, because it'll make a tree, and it goes on and on. And I bought into that. I know my granddaddy heavily influenced not only my dad, but my mom when they got married. And my mom heavily influenced my upbringing. I literally was drugged. I was drugged to church on Sundays and Wednesdays. And that influence is what I wanted to have with my children, and now I get to have that influence with my grandkids.
Yeah,
so you introduced me to the concept in 2016.
That's good. So let's make sure we get the illustration right, okay? So anybody can count the seeds in an apple,
right,
but only God can count the apples in a seed, right?
That's right.
And so that's a great analogy of how we ought to be looking at our lives and how we ought to be investing in our lives. And then after kind of God connected us together, put us together, and here we are in Israel, where the very first discipleship group gets started, right? And where the movement of multiplying disciples, Jesus launched it from Israel. So it couldn't be a better way for us to get connected and be able to have a conversation about that. So since that time, man, you have really, you took that challenge to heart. And you have been the real deal. You have been investing in small groups of guys for a number of times. So talk a little bit about how many groups that you've had, and maybe a little bit of the makeup of those groups, because I know they've been a little different each time. And just tell us what those groups have been like. Just do that.
Well, I came down for your seminar and got more of the, okay, what's this going to look like, how it would work. And quite honestly, I took the softball approach the first time. I grabbed 3 men that were believers. One I worked with, one I sold chemical and fertilizers to at a golf course. He's a little older than me. And another gentleman that was friends of the guy I worked with. And so we were all believers. And I kind of wanted to go through the Disciple Making Essentials, your 8 books, plus the leadership book. I wanted to go through it in a safe zone. So we started out at Waffle House. They remodeled, we moved to Bojangles, but 5:30 we didn't miss many times. We'd break bread with a biscuit or blueberry, and then we'd go for about an hour, and we were there about an hour and a half. And we met every week for about a year and a half and went through all those books, different church backgrounds, but around your material, it took us through all the questions, all the things that we needed to know. And the whole time, I started with the premise, fellas, when we get to the end of this road, I'm commissioning you to find you 3 or 4 guys, and you make disciples who will make disciples. Because the penny illustration you give, would you want $1 million or a penny that doubled every day? That makes sense to me. And so that was the first group, and it went well. The second group, I prayed about it the first of the next year, and God just led me to a guy at work, another customer of mine, and then a young guy who was an intern or apprentice at our office. Came together, and we all met at Moe's this time, and we met every week for the most part. Really diverse. 3 of those guys, one came to church probably 6-7 times a year, and the other 2 hadn't been in the building in a while. But they loved Jesus, came from different backgrounds, so that one was really, it was more making disciples, fully developed disciples. Again, people that knew Jesus, they weren't strangers to the concept. Third group got to be fun. It was kids I'd known with my son through the youth ministry, and they now are 25 to 28-year-olds in the world, working, feeling the pressure of the world, and we met at my house. We met in my living room once a week, and again, took about a year and a half to go through that. One during this time, Ken, if I can tell a story that happened, one night we finish up, and we get up like men to gather up and pray, and we finished the prayer, and one guy stopped and said, "Hey, I want y'all to know I'm drinking every night, and I'm not able to quit. I'm leaving here now and going to the liquor store." And we just finished Bible study. I mean, we should be Jesused up. And he finally had built enough trust with us that he shared that, and we prayed for him. Love to tell you now that he has absolutely been sober for probably 5 years. He's gone on to help former military people that helped him out. But Ken, out of this group, not just making discipleship, but we were doing life together for a year and a half. And during that time, you really get to know these people. The second story that came out of that group that was great to tell was one of these kids ended up at 28 joining the military. And then I sent you a video one day where he had gotten on fire for the Lord again through this group. He had gone down, and one day they were in the river, and he was baptizing, I think it was 30 or 32 of his whatever you call those young guys that are going through boot camp, and he had baptized them down there just by the influence they had picked up on him already. And so I immediately was catching fire of like, okay, this works. If you can do this, this works. And then the last group that I have currently going on, it's been going on about 23 months. It is 2 17-year-olds, an 18-year-old, and a 24-year-old. All three of those young men are ministers' children, and I handpicked them. They need to be those guys that if somebody will just put wind in their sail, they will take off. And it has been fun to watch how the scriptures unveil themselves to them because they've all grown up in church. But I would dare to say they know a little of their Bible, and they had not gone into the stretches that you take us through. And so one of them's dad is a preacher where I go to church, and he mentioned it from stage one day. His son came home and said, Mr. John has challenged us to fast. Do you fast, Dad? And he's like, sure, I fast. Nobody had challenged them to do that. And that was just one of the things that came out of it. But sitting at this table, it's going to take us about 2 years to get through it because of sports that they play and schoolwork and all. But they do not miss. Each and every one of those parents have said, my kids miss a lot of stuff, but they will not miss this. And what has happened again at that table is the trust has been built. These three boys knew of each other. Two had gone to grade school together, but now they absolutely stone sharpening stone sitting at that table. And the 24-year-old is just far enough ahead of them that he can tell them what it was like playing baseball all the way through travel and into sports, and because they're all athletes and they're all leaders. And Ken, one of my favorite stories, one of the boys got baptized during this time that he was in this group. He had known the gospel his whole life, but challenging him to think about it in ways that you lead us through your Essentials books challenged him. Well, that one of them's a senior, two are juniors, and this senior was the point guard on the basketball team. His goal this year was to make a difference on and off the court. And as the younger ones have heard stories and watched how he handled the manager and gave him a ride home and was invited over to a birthday party for one of the special needs kids that helps out, just Jesus-like behavior was happening. And I get choked up thinking about,
That's awesome.
I was not doing that at 18. Wow. And I think I shared this with you one time. I shared a question you had in one of your books about, do you think if we took normal people today and just poured into them for 3 years, they would do what Jesus did with those 12 and make disciples? And those boys were like, yeah. I said, well, let me ask it in a different way. How many of your friends are meeting once a week to study the Bible, to learn to be disciples, whatever? And they're like, probably none. 24-year-old, how many of your age group is meeting weekly beyond the church window just to know the gospel, learn to be a disciple maker? And he said, none. I said, that's Ken's point, is that we go to church, we learn about Jesus, we even learn the Great Command, the Great Commission, but nobody has necessarily taken that to heart, that this is on me to make disciples who make disciples, and to see the light bulb go on for them. And I said, that's why when we finish this, your commission is to now go do this yourselves. And they're grappling with this, and we got one more book of leadership, and then I'm gonna launch them out there. So those are 4 different groups, and this last one with these young guys has probably been the most rewarding one.
Dude, that is so good, John. I mean, I could listen to you all day, man, talking about these guys, because that's what it's all about, man. And I'm honestly, man, just listening to you tell these stories, and the emotion is just swelling up. I mean, it's physically, I'm like, man, this is so awesome, man. This is so cool, because, number one, man, just, praise God for your faithfulness, because a lot of people will just go through a book and say, I've done that, I'm not going to do it again. But man, you realize the power in that investment, and you're really not. It's not so much about what you curriculum you use or not. It's just the fact that you're just really doing what Jesus told us to do. That's to keep pouring into guys. So man, that's so good to hear that. And then also too, just listening to you talk about how you're seeing them change, and we would say that they're developing Christ-like character and Christ-like conduct, man. And that's the touchdown right there. That's the whole ball of wax, if you ask me. So really good, man, really good. And just I hit it again, but there's just so few people that are willing to do what you're doing, and to have now, you've got several generations that you've launched out, that you've sent out, and that's just so hard to find, John. So, man, well done with that, man. So, all right, so let me ask you this, man. From your standpoint, I think a lot of people would appreciate hearing this from you, because again, you're just a guy out there's doing it. So, what have been some of the challenges? What have been some of the things you'd say, I didn't know this was going to happen, or this was going to come? Has there been anything that you said this kind of been hard?
Yes. First one, and I'm as extroverted as they come. I'll talk to a stranger on the street, in the subway, and I still was nervous and anxious about putting a group together. I can facilitate a conversation. I've led small group in my house before, but I was really nervous about him. I think I didn't want to. It's the same as when your kids are selling that Christmas paper for the cheerleaders or the football team or whatever. I didn't want to make them feel guilty if they said no to this. And so I really did pray and fast, but that's what's going to get most people, is that nobody's going to want to do this, and what if this doesn't go well? What if they quit after 6 weeks? All those things that Satan will just bring up, some life stories. That was the biggest challenge. Second one is practical. You've got to get people that we fill our lives up in America, and we all have 168 hours in a week, but they're full. So that first group, we had to commit to getting up an hour early and meeting at 5:30, not waking at 5, but meeting at 5:30, and that was tough. The second group, we had to break away in the middle of a crazy busy day and stop at Moe's for an hour and a half and get to it. And some days, one of the four couldn't make it, and we just kept going. And then with these teenagers, or with the middle 20 boys, two of them came and went. One literally went into rehab, one left and went into the military, and one of the guys said, "Can I invite so-and-so?" He also was a guy that we all knew, and because I'd have operated these as a closed group, not an open group to keep bringing, because I was intentional about building trust. So the challenge there was the group went from being 5, me and 4 20-something-year-olds, down to 3 of us. But then God showed us, and one more came, and then we finished it off with those 4. And then the same with this last group. It's been they all play multiple sports. And so between 4 days, 5 days a week of football practice, when are we going to meet on a Saturday? They've gotten of age where they have Saturday jobs when they're not playing sports. So just life gets in the way.
Wow.
But I saw enough in those first 2 groups that I'm this committed. And like I say, it's going to take us probably 25 months to finish this with these boys, but they want to finish as much as I do. So that's how life was getting in the way of what was happening.
That's gold, man. That's just really good. And just to think, these guys at that age, to have a guy like yourself that is, has been seasoned, learned so much about life and about ministry and just walking with the Lord, for you to be pouring into them and investing in them, I'm just telling you that is changing. That is life changing, and that is so good, man. So when you say rewarding, so talk about some of the things that, as you look back through all these groups you've done, what would you say have been the really, maybe just besides the stories, what have been the benefits of it, or the blessings, I would say?
First, I knew this from Dad being a school teacher and all. You want to learn something, you start facilitating or teaching it. Wow. So it has challenged me early on in 2016. praying is boring to me. I like to pray for emergencies. I like to pray last minute before I run this play and somebody's going to tackle me. I want to know God's protection's there. So one, it forced me really to look into, because you cover that in some of the books, prayer and who am I praying for? Am I praying consistently? So one of the rewards is out of this, I'm clear. I don't know how many years I've been making goals, but clearly at the top now it says to glorify God. Mm-hmm. Second thing is to make disciples. It doesn't matter if I sell fertilizer today or not, but out of that came a prayer life that covered me before I showed up at the meeting to facilitate or whatever. That would be probably the number one benefit, is that my prayer life stepped up. Simultaneously being in God's Word. I think I'm on year 10 now. I've got another best friend of mine that I've known since age 6. It's our 10th year going through going through the entire Bible in 1 year. And we do it every year, and we make a comment or so. And that has prepared me so that when I'm down with these 17, 18-year-olds, because some of these other men knew the Bible as well as I did, so we bantered back and forth. But with these guys, I now know where, if I can't quote many of them, but I can find them. I know where they're located, and also I am much more in the Word on a daily basis, and that's a reward of not wanting to be underprepared when I showed up there. And so at this point in time, that's a habit of my life. I don't anticipate when they take me off to heaven, unless I can't listen or read anymore, I'll be in the Word, and my prayer life is much better than it was. So for me personally, the last piece would be, I go through your material. I've been through it 4 times. You can't help but find fault in yourself each time you go through there. So weaknesses, things that I need to work on, and that is constantly good for all of us, but it's certainly good for me to stay on the offense and just continue to prepare and make sure I'm the disciple who can make disciples. So that's a reward.
That's awesome, man. You know, I have this ongoing conversation with a lot of people who get this idea that, okay, I've gone through the books, so now I'm done. and you know, I always tell people, I say, you know, it's one thing for you to go through the books. It's another thing for the books to go through you. And you're living proof of that, you know, you realize that that's just a tool. The curriculum is just a tool. Nothing special about the curriculum, but the process that you're walking through and the investment that you're making is just huge. And there are so few people in the church today that are willing to do that. So, man, that's good stuff, man. I'm not kidding. It's really good. And so let me get one more question, and I think we'll probably wrap it up with this. But so tell me this, man, because here you are, multiple times you've led groups, you're going through, discipleship with a lot of guys that you've connected either through personal relationships or through work or people you've sold to or whatever. But you've not yet been in a church that is strategically, as a church, trying to make disciples. And I kind of want you to speak to that for a minute, because I talk to a lot of people who say, I'm not really in a church that's focused on the disciple-making process. So how have you made all that work in your life? Because, I mean, you're in great churches, really good churches, Bible-believing, worshiping churches, but they're not necessarily driving a disciple-making pathway or process. So speak to that for a minute. How does that work for you?
Yeah, and it's worth covering a little bit of history. I grew up in the Church of Christ, which in their heyday in the 60s and 70s, they were known for the film strips. They'd knock on your door and show up and proselytize or make disciples there in your own living room at home and all. And by the time I got there, that was gone. That was not still happening or whatever. So I grew up and I don't think my wife would mind anybody knowing that what she was taught among Jesus and everything else is you don't miss. If the door's open 7 days a week, you go 7 days. But so I heard that, and she brought that into our family. And before I took the spiritual baton, she carried that. And so that was going to be a staple in our family. And yes, if you end up at the building, you're going to hear a lot of good things come from preachers like yourself and all. But then when we branched out 2016 or 17 and we're looking for a new church where I could have more outreach opportunities and all, you get there and it's a great show. It really is. I mean, it's good singing, it's good preaching, it's good small groups and all that. But you're right. It could still fall short of just fellowship and Bible school, Bible classes or studying the book of Romans, which all help make us closer to being like Jesus. But then who takes it to the neighbor? Who takes it from there? Because let's face it, in this day culture, nobody's sitting on porches anymore. The garage door goes up, we pull in, the garage door goes down, and that is all of us for the most part. And so with that being said, at these churches, God's timing put you and I together in Israel, and I just was still at the churches where I've been. Currently, I'm the fun guy that's with the 4th and 5th graders back there, and I get a little bit of front time or whatever, but that is not necessarily converting them to be disciples. I'm the water along the path, or maybe in my case, I'm the fertilizer or whatever. So our church is about developing people that get closer to Jesus. But we do not have a direct pathway yet. We haven't shown the John Shamlins how that looks to have it. Closest we get is like most churches, probably with Bible studies. My wife is now with some ladies a little bit older than her. One of them leads a Bible study, and she's loving it for the same reasons I just described to you. However, it's going to be topic related as opposed to let's make sure we've touched the things that will lead us to make disciples. And the one piece that's missing for most of that is how clear it is that the goal for these people that are meeting together to make disciples, and then you go get a group and make disciples. That's the commission piece that I think we leave out and just internalize and say, if I can just get me and my family there, I've done better than some.
Yeah.
And so right now, the influence that I'm having with a men's Bible group on Friday morning, it's just a topical meeting. We've covered some books and stuff, is to let them know what I'm doing with these young men. And they're starting to hear that. And one of them is branched out and going to start a group he's going through your essential books. He and I meet now on the side, untraditionally, but he's going through it because he wants to start a Wild at Heart men's group that's out in nature. Yeah. But Wild at Heart will launch them, and then he'll take them through the discipleship process before he graduates them. And so that's how I'm going to have influence on my church and share this with the leaders and see if God won't fan the flame. We'll see what happens.
Wow, man, that's great, man. So good stuff, man. So I don't want to miss this opportunity because you got so many good things to share, and obviously, Jesus called fishermen, and he said, "I want you to be fishers of men." But he also calls fertilizer salesmen.
He does.
So Jesus calls fishermen and fertilizer salesmen. And so now you're selling fertilizer for a different reason in some ways. But here's what I want to kind of land a plane here is you have a different audience here. You got a lot of pastors and probably minister leaders, but also just some people that are just like you are, that are just being in a church and, trying to figure out how you do this. And so if you just wanted to just sort of leave them with one thing or one maybe takeaway or challenge, and you say, this is what I would want to encourage you to do, just tell us what that would be, man.
Yeah. I'm a big believer that your why has to be bigger than all the obstacles that are going to come up. And if I'm not careful, get emotional. The reason that we know each other, my best friend died when I was 27, he was 26. We had a pact together that anytime we played golf, he hit it in the woods. Okay, I'll take it from here. If I hit it in the water, he'd take it from here. When he passed away, I stood over his coffin and said, okay, I'll take it from here. So, tough time for me. That's my why. Everybody's got one. Whether they've realized it or not, I've got 2 beautiful grandgirls now. That's my next 30-year why. I want to be around long enough to have a legacy for them. I'd love for them to sit down and go through this with Papa John sometime or whatever. So what I'd want the pastors to hear is that there are hundreds of John Shamlin sitting in the audience, and Mary Shamlin, my wife, out there that need to know that commission and give it to us often and regularly, like Nehemiah. Just keep bringing that back to us, because you never know. The timing was perfect for us in Israel. Wow. And God spoke to my heart, and the rest is fun. The rest is fun, so yes.
So good, man. Well, thank you so much, John, for being here. And I know, you don't live nearby, so it's a few hours to get here, and you were willing to come and hang out with us and share. And I think it's just been fantastic what you shared, and such a good encouragement to people. So again, man, thank you for joining us. And just want to remind you that at Impact Ministries, we are just really trying to help churches and pastors and church members figure out how do you really know what it means to be a disciple and help build more disciples. And so if we can serve you in any way, if we can come alongside your church, we can do a disciple-making church seminar. Contact us about that. If we can, maybe you're a pastor and you want to learn more about what are the priorities of a disciple-making pastor, we'd love to help you with that. We have a training that we do kind of through a Zoom call, and you might be interested in that. So a lot of our curriculum will help you in this process. Go to impactdisciples.com. That's the best way to find out more. And if there's anything we can do to help you, just please contact us, impactdisciples.com, and we will see you again next month.